Hey guys, it's Zach. Today we're talking about the 28th Sunday of Ordinary Time, and the Gospel's really short this week, so I'm just going to read it for you real fast before we get going. So this is a reading from the Gospel of Luke. As Jesus continued his journey to Jerusalem, he traveled through Samaria and Galilee. As he was entering a village, 10 lepers met him. They stood at a distance from him and raised their voices, saying, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And when he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." As they were going, they were cleansed. And one of them, realizing he had been healed, returned, glorifying God in a loud voice. And he fell at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Jesus said in reply, 10 were cleansed, were they not? Where are the other 9? Has none but this foreigner returned to give thanks to God? Then he said to him, "Stand up and go. Your faith has saved you." Alright, so first I want to talk a little bit about lepers, because the idea of lepers is very popular, very used all the time throughout the Gospels. So for people of Jesus' time, lepers were complete outcasts. In the eyes of the society and the Jewish community, they had this leprosy because of something that they had done. They were considered unclean, both of flesh and spirit. So they were dirty through and through in the eyes of the Jewish community. And because of this, they were forced to wear bells, basically to warn people as to when they were near, so people could run in the other direction. Because the idea was that if you touched a leper or you got close to a leper, you would become unclean. You would receive the same leprosy. This is why in the Gospel they stand at a distance from Jesus and they yell to him instead of walking up to him. Because they've accepted their spot on the outskirts. They've accepted the fact that they're outcasts. So Jesus turns all of this on its head. When Jesus heals people, he doesn't shoot them with magic at a long distance. He doesn't touch them with like a long holy staff as he's sticking it out like that to try and get to people. See, when Jesus heals people, he hugs people, he touches people, he kisses people, he heals these lepers through touch. Now the thought in the society is that if you touch a leper, you will become unclean like them. Jesus doesn't care about this. Because you see, this is what Jesus does. He heals people by taking on their ailments. Jesus heals lepers all throughout the Gospel, and each time it acts as a giant miraculous metaphor for how he will save humanity by his passion. Just as he reaches out to humanity, became human, and suffered for us on the cross, he takes the burden of leprosy off of these people and bears it on his own shoulders. But wait, you say, Zach, wait, hang on. Jesus didn't become a leper, so how can you say that he's healing these lepers by taking the leprosy upon himself? Well, he does, in so much as he becomes an outcast. Jesus becomes an outcast because of who he was, because of how he preached, because of who he hung out with. He hung out with the sinners, the tax collectors, and the lepers. It made him an outcast, and many people treated him just as they would have a leper. Alright, so Jesus heals these lepers, right? He heals them by touching them and getting close to them and loving them. He heals 10 lepers. Alright, but only one returns, only one comes back. He tells them, go off and show yourselves to the priest, because that's what you're supposed to do. If you were a leper and you thought you had been cleansed, you go to the priest, and that's Leviticus 14 if you don't believe me. You go to the priest to get yourself named clean. Alright? So he tells them, go to the priests. Once they realize that they have been healed, that they have been cleansed, only one of them returns to Jesus. Jesus asks this man, who was a Samaritan, again, like a leper, an outcast from society, an outcast in the Jewish community, why didn't everybody else come back? Why are you the only one to return? And then he says, alright, you know what, that's fine, just stand up, your faith has saved you, you go now, you're good. Alright? So now how does this apply to you and me? Well, you see, we're all just like these lepers. We exist in sin. And like these lepers, when we reach the height of our neediness, we turn to Christ. And he heals us. We go to Mass, we go to confession, we go to adoration, we go on retreat, and we are made new. Right? Have you ever had an experience like this? You turn away from Jesus, and after a long time being away from him, you turn back to Christ, and it's amazing. Right? But then all too often, you see, we act like the other 9 lepers, rather than that one Samaritan. Once we get what we can from Christ, we turn away and we go back to our daily lives. We go back to living as business as usual. We fall back into the lust, hate, anger, drugs, alcohol, frustration, stress, and sadness that originally pulled us away from Christ. Then it takes us so much to turn back to Jesus, because last time we screwed it up and we're not sure that just because that this time, we're not sure if Jesus is going to be able to forgive us this time. Well, you see, rest assured, Jesus won't run out of room for you. Jesus' heart will never run out of love for you. He'll always forgive you. He'll always want you back. But learn from the leper who returned to Christ. Learn from the leper who returned to Christ. Christ tells him, stand up, go, your faith has saved you. Jesus says to us when we return to Christ, get up, don't let sin keep you down anymore, your faith has saved you. The message is this: don't go to Christ only when you're in need. Turn to Christ and then remain in Christ. And then go and sin no more. Go and act like you have a brand new soul, because you do. Once you turn back to Christ, you can never be the same, so don't act the same. So this week I challenge you to live the things that you say in Mass. I challenge you to live a Christian life inside and out, because that's what a life in Christ demands. But that's also the joy of the gospel message. Thank you all so much. God bless. Have a great week.